So here we are, right side up again. I've been spending quite a bit of time cleaning the underside. Well, you see the mess on the floor. There's still a way to go, but it's just been try and get the really dull job out of the way, or some of it at least. And what's left to do is this floor pan. Now, hopefully, with the car being able to turn the car upside down, it's not going to be too difficult. But what I'm worried about is stuff moving, because we're currently supporting the whole of the body on the mounting points. And if I cut the rest of the floor away, this whole thing is probably going to become quite weak. So I don't want to put it back on the chassis and find this is actually moved. Now I've got myself some box section, so before the floor comes out, I'm going to build some bracing from the, probably from the cross member thing, across the two, between the two halves of the floor and up and down. So basically we're going to be reinforcing this bulkhead section, because as soon as that floor lip comes away, this is going to get quite floppy, even with the sill structure and the A-post structure here. And my worry is, because there's not much to this, that we could have some flex here. I still don't want. I want to avoid putting the battery tray in still until I've got, because it's going to give me better access to get in here, which I'll probably need. So that's my first job. And then we'll get the car turned back over again and be able to hopefully work on the bottom quite easily. And here is what I've come up with. It might be overkill, but I would prefer overkill to... I've been guilty of not doing this enough in the past. Like, particularly when I did my Herald floors, I ended up having to go cut apart the right hand one and wiggle the body mount to be back in the right place. So anyway, we've got a whole load of cross bracing to the other side. It's welded to the rotisserie and upwards to the bulkhead, so I think I've done my best. So yeah, now I've got to turn the car back over and start cutting that floor off, which is going to be mostly removing the front edge, I think, because obviously it's not attached to the sill anymore. So back upside down again. And I thought what I can also do, I'm just going to tack this onto the support structure and then cut away everything else, because then that's going to give me where these holes should be and help me line up the new floor pan, hopefully quite easily. Where the join's going to be, I'm not sure, because you can see this is bashed in again as a consequence of this car having sat on its floors at some point, or possibly to do with this repair. Anyway, who knows. So I guess it depends on how well I can hammer this out or pull this out as to whether I can actually hope to put a joint through the middle of it. Anyway, I'll do that. I'll get cutting and I will see you when there's a great big hole here. As promised, here's a large hole. I managed to extract, well, cut off the main bit of the floor, extracted that bit. This bracket is very savable. This edge is mostly alright, except for right where it's going to be most awkward to repair. So yeah, gonna have to do something about that somehow. It's not like I can even take the cheaty way out of doing all that, because I've got this bit welded in there to stop it all falling apart. Anyway, that now can go and sit in some rust remover overnight, and then come back and get this cleaned up. It's my first job tomorrow. And I think before I do any of that, I'm going to probably do it wire brushing and possibly get some paint on some of these bits that are going to be really inaccessible, because they don't really need it. They will survive, but as we're here, this access is not going to come again for a very long time. So where we got to, I've been cleaning up this edge, welding up, well, missed a hole, welding up the holes where I drilled through, or little dimples where I caught. I'm going to try and replace this little section here, which might involve cutting away some of that, which I don't really want to do, but I can't see, given what I've done, I'm going to have to, figure something out. Also, I have made a strip to go in there. I decided it was easier to just put a straight bit in and then make the cutout for the wiring loom again. And what I'm going to do, you see I've cut and hammered that flat. I'm going to take a big hole saw and just drill through with the centre somewhere in there, and that will give me my cutout. Yeah, done a bit of touch up there, so that needs grinding. I need to get that done, then probably cut the bit of floor to start test fitting that. So, I've done enough of the little repairs inside to test fit this. So I just cut halfway through the floor. That's probably about where I'm going to keep it. First problem, this is the original front edge, and you can see it's a nice right angle, and it needs to be so that the bracket that goes in here will fit. This floor pan doesn't have that shape, it's not that angle. So, if you can hear me over the wind, the first job is going to be to try and squash this a bit. As you see, that which way around? That needs really to be like that. So I've been trying to get the holes that fix the, or that they use to fix the gearbox cover in place to line up with the ones for the floor and the ones for the HVAC. Now, if I do that, then I can't get these presets to line up. So I think that it's going to have to be a case of accepting that these are in the wrong place for the moment. I'm going to have to do something to move them to where they originally were. Otherwise you have the nightmare of the gearbox turn going on or this thing not fitting. Because they're less hard to deal with than the pressings. So if I had that, they will get that result. That's where that those compressors would go. So I'm going to have to go for something like this. Which is annoying but not entirely unexpected. So I need to have a bit more trim here, so I can cut this, then to the side of my final back and forth placement before I cut the floor. Well, there we are, cut out. pretty much everything underneath. This all needs a bit more rust treatment, so I'm going to do that overnight. This is meeting up pretty well. I made this cup too big. I hadn't noticed I trimmed this wonky, so I measured from this end, which was higher, and whatever, deal with it. As I said, these holes are in the wrong place. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the floor pan in, then I can feel that I trimmed the old bit, or I know I trimmed the old bit, right up against the edge. So I'm just going to take the existing bit of floor off of this frame, and then when everything's welded in, I'm going to use it as a template to fill in these holes and drill some more, so that they're in a more useful place. So I deliberately didn't care about what these cuts were like, because what this should be like is that. So I'm going to make myself some flanges. I'm going to cut into here and spot weld onto here. Yeah, so I'll get my rust treatment done, and I'll see you tomorrow, or in about a second. So I've got my rust cleaned up on my flanges, welded up the spot weld holes, or spot weld drill holes, whatever, and I got this sat where I want it to go. I've just been inside with pen and gone around the edges of where I'm going to drill holes in this, so I can plug weld through to the cross member and here. So that's what I'm going to do. Going to clean off the E-coat from the A-post and get everything primed as appropriate. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to make sure that the bracket that goes here is going to fit with my adjustments to this bit of floor. So I'm going to have to get it out of the rust remover solution and chuck it on. What do you think? Does it fit? No, it doesn't. It's supposed to go in there. Right. And there is not enough room between this pressing and that edge, because the angle's still not quite right where it's actually sitting. Like so. The position here is okay, but that's because it was cut off this bit here. Anyway, that's not right. So I think I'm just going to have to let in another piece. I have to make something that will wrap round that nicely and fill in that corner, and let me shove that a little bit further this way. I think maybe at that point I just make myself a rectangle, because I get this flange in as well. I'll get some sheet metal out and put going. So I cut a great big hole there. That will now sit where it wants to go, almost, because it hits this bit of the pressing. And that bit of the pressing is supposed to be about 1 centimetre further that way. I think I might just lose a little bit off the back of this, rather than try and reshape all of this nonsense, because it can be by far the least awkward way of doing things. Not thrilled about the idea, but let's just cut it off here. This means it. So made that. Got plan. Stick it here. I think that's where that's going to want to go. So I'm going to get some Clecos in there. Chuck it on the car. See what it looks like. Right, so it looks okay on the car. So I'll chuck a few tacks in. So this bit under here is joined on. And I'll probably just zip through there and probably just run a cutting disc through there and weld it together. Right, so that's looking fine on the car. Clean off the C-coat properly, get that welded off the ground, and then so it's now fitting better or fine down here, but I've still got more work to do. Got to replace that, or make a flange to go there. I'll fill in that hole. So I'm going to get this sat properly in place again, and I'll be able to build the flange to the car and get it. I'll get it tacked in on the car probably. Take it off to weld and then find some scraps to fill in that great big hole. And then maybe we can think about prepping it to go on properly. Don't need to be zoomed in really. That's in. Fill in that hole just by taking that and cutting it to shape and fitting the bit in, welding around, cutting it off. I'm pretty far up with this. That's a bit of a theme at the moment, unfortunately. Fortunately, though, we're coming close to the end. Anyway, what I'm going to do is weld up all those drill marks and replace that front section, and then that's it for today, I think. I wanted to get this fitted further in, but I think I need to sit on it. Just go back to it tomorrow. Anyway, that's going to go to roll, put my chunky plate in there to replace that edge. Otherwise, just filling in holes. So I'm going to get my prep work done. Everything's ready to go in. I have been around the inside with a wire brush on the surfaces that are directly opposite me at the moment. I decided not to put any paint on because I can, with the car in this position, I can stand in the window aperture and get in there alright. And that lets me leave painting till after I've done welding. Because inevitably, I'm going to here. I've got paint on the inside of here, which I'm now going to burn off because I'm about to weld there. But you know, just want to avoid that as much as possible. But also I'll talk to the painter and see if they reasonably can get up underneath there, and if me putting extra paint there is going to cause them problems. Anyway, getting close. Well, there's the flooring. Yeah, it is fully welded in. I've got some little bits of grinding left to do. It's not finished though, because that's got to go in. I end up a bit further backwards than it was, but this is not a close tolerance hole, so we can cope with that. It's also possible it needs to open up a little bit to fit, so let's look at the best. There it is. Anyway, that all needs painting, that needs going in, and then I'm going to have to come back and redo this. I think I'm going to have to weld up these holes and re-drill them, because I measured myself lots of crossways measurements before I cut out the old piece, and I think they basically need to be there rather than, you know, it's coming at holes depth in. Anyway, it's very close. Oh, and there's a little bit, cut that out, there's a little bit of sandwich rust that's very obvious there, so do that a little bit. And then there's this trimming, and that needs beating back into shape, because you see it's all rather wobbly. And I think we might be done with repairing the underneath of the car. It's outside-ish after a year and a half. So I've been round to cut away my supporting structure and done a bit of grinding, pull that edge off, for example. And what I'm going to do now is, it's, you know, a nice enough day to have it out, is do some more of the cleaning up underneath, so that at least the dust isn't all over the garage completely. Spent a bit of time yesterday with the car outside stripping off stuff. There's more to do. I'm currently, you know, going around with rust remover on bits of it, and there's the gearbox tunnel mounting stuff to do, but I'm on the way to paint. So I'm going to continue cleaning this up. I've also got a bit of tidying up to do and to start stripping down the chassis. But for the moment, we're going to finish this episode. I'm very much in the mode of cleaning and painting stuff, so we'll see how much actually ends up on camera or not. Anyway, I'm going to get back to scrubbing at this with a tiny little wire brush and leave it there. So, thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you next time.